IDHBNY, Elbow FC, Broken Elbow FC. Oh man, oh goodness me. Hope everybody out there is all right. Been it's been quite a past couple of days with the snow out here. Yeah, you got um, a lot of accumulation on the ground. I took a little stroll, a little bit like out on the side of where I live and around the block just a wee bit. And it, I maybe was wrong about the 2 feet, but when I was coming up a certain hill, like incline, it felt like there was quite, it was up to my waist actually, like at one point. So, where in one particular area where I was at in and around the vicinity of where I was. Anyhow, I hope everybody's safe, everybody's warm, everybody's keeping well. Yeah, first thing that happens on a Monday morning after you win against Sunderland. This guy's for sale, that guy's for sale. Um, the accomplishment of business is always verified or negated to varying degrees. Either people are like, yes, this is going down, it's happened, or you get the flip side of the coin of like, no, it's not quite there yet. And it's like, and then learning, Paqueta's shipping off and having a performance with Fernandez the way he was, you did tend to get a bit of Paqueta amnesia. There's listen, I'm I myself, right? Yes, Paqueta enthusiast, thought he was always on the left hand side, played excellently when he had the likes of Emerson or Fornals or an Alvarez, like, or anybody, and he was a part of our inevitable acquiring of the European trophy, literally, quite literally. But there comes a time when this was interesting to me because when I had gone and seen Man United versus West Ham, when Man United, Ruben Amorim had just come in and Potter had just put us through a tail end of a season that was left us with more questions than answers at the end of it. Um, uh, it was the second half of that game, and there was a guy who was like wearing shades. He was dressed very like distinctly of a particular echelon of individual, like as far as like businessman, I should say. Not like he was just a dude with shades, dressed really like on the cell phone, literally the whole time of this game, and texting and calling and all kinds of stuff. Like I observed him when I had gone up diagonal from the seat that I had purchased there to the New York Hammers, kind of where they were positioned up in the on the side behind Areola in the first half. But the this guy had said, when it appeared that Paqueta had livened up the team a bit, he was like, tomorrow, or what they're gonna say on Monday. I was like, what's that? He goes, Paqueta's for sale, and I'm like, why? They're like, they're gonna keep saying it until it is. I'm like, huh? Like, like this is interesting. I'm like, why you say that? He goes, look what happened to Declan after they. And I thought to myself, I was like, there's been occasions in the past where similarly things have happened a little bit like that, but not quite. He had a bit of a point with it. Pardon me, I have to take a sip of something real quick. Seltzer. So Paqueta is off, right? Where is he going? Flamingo. Um, where or Valencia is? I forget where Paqueta is going, man. It's really. I'm not too terribly bothered anymore about it because he was good up on the left. Was always effective when he had. He was only as good as the sum of his parts around him, so to speak. When you had the likes of Emerson and Alvarez and Fornals, even Ben Rama, like some a dog, anybody up in the mix. He he had synergy when and fire when there was that. There was, you know, a little bit of time under Moyes where he had demonstrated, how creative and exciting of a player he was. But um, all everybody says there's no loyalty in football. He had gone through the betting kind of things and everything like that, and we can always get into that really and crack that open. But it seems like based off of the way that dude told me, he's gonna get sold. It was almost like, well, if he doesn't this this next week to come, there's going to be another week where there's going to be some kind of talk of him leaving. And sure enough, not that week, but the following week, there was talks of him considering going to Man U or going to Spurs, which was like, which happened almost like on a semi quarterly basis. So it really leaves you scratching your head. Did he really have the loyalty to be here? If that was, I don't know who that dude was. He could have been like a Mr. Slugworth kind of entity or whatever. But any which way, he's gone. Fernandez is here. Yes, I agree with a lot of people. He's better than a lot of legacy players that have come through. I still think we have yet to see the very best from Mr. Fernandez. But then again, there's another player. He has a screamer of a game. His name is up on the. All of a sudden, he's featured on the website videos, and his name is up on the chopping block for transfers or being for sale or talks with this. It always happens. There's like, oh man, very difficult to have to deal with. But some people are saying Traore's over the line. I I if the intent since Paco Jimenez has been in since the QPR game, I think it was, we've been seeing this gradual, like, when Mav took the injury, it forced a formational change where Pablo came in. There was a 4-4-2, and voila, there the first half was kind of the the first half was always the one with the most intent behind it. And then the second half, from there on out, it's been seeming like we've just been laying deep. But having, certain players like Wilson to come in and be able to create that impact substitute effect. Um, and some people are saying that the addition of a Traore, like a great wall of China, huge physical presence that fits Nuno's profile of game when he plays that low block, that he could be effective in the obtaining of counterattacking systems if the method is bomb them with goals in the first half and then lay back and account and get an occasional potential fortunate counterattack on them. But if that's going to be the way, and Paco Jimenez, there's a nice yin and yang kind of like balance that almost takes place, because some people are saying the guy's actually was brought in as like a defensive guy, or he was a former defensive this or something. Whatever, I'm not entirely sure, but his pair up with Nuno has created a method where if the intention is to get as many goals as you can in the first half and then lay in wait, um, and change formations, I think what we need to do is every game it's going to be up in the bar. I keep saying this game is going to be the proving grounds. This one's going to be the proving grounds, and every single one of them winds up being the next one being the proving grounds because of just the way the tables go. We're still quite a bit of points lacking in our in where we're standing. Anywho, moving forward, we have Chelsea coming up. I feel like we're going to have to absolutely do. We're going to need, to quote the movie Jaws, we're going to need a bigger boat, so to speak. It's just, and some people are saying, I'm hearing from people, the result with Chelsea can be any which way. But I'm really of the opinion that every single game needs to be a sizable margin win from here on out, and needs to be an absolute battering out the gate. But we'll see. We'll see. And good luck to all my new subscribers that support other football teams out there that have taken a look. But we're gonna see how this is gonna happen coming up. Bear with me for one moment, taking a sip. Oh boy. So moving forward, the New Jersey away day. This story, I have to say, I in my recounting of it, it's going to be chronologically a little bit off because I do recall time that day. It was so incredibly hot. Let me tell you, like I went to go try to film this thing and make it like a edited thing. There was no way it was even happening. My battery cord had burnt out in the transit of it. My brain had been fried from, just the course of the day being just so incredibly hot. No matter how much I prepared for this, like away day style of urban spelunking to a football game, it was just the by the end of it, it felt like you had climbed like a mountain, and by that night you had gotten to the top of it. But anyhow, so um, Tony Soprano Cup, West Ham Potter versus Ruben Amorim's Man United play at the MetLife Arena. I save up money from work, get tickets to it, go to it, take a couple of days off. I basically had set things in motion where it was going to be like a neat kind of traveling filmed kind of narrative thing where it was going to be pieced together at the end and edited and all kinds of stuff. And as it turned out, everything and anything that could go, it was more like a Spinal Tap. And I really should have actually kept the footage for that reason, because it was very silly, very funny at the end. And it was, but anyhow, I'll just tell it. So yeah, that morning I had a ticket. Um, because of where I currently am in New York, it takes two trains to get to New York City these days. It's not where I grew up. Where I grew up was about 45 minutes to an hour outside of New York City, so you could take a train and be down there lickety split. Where I'm currently at, you have to wait for a certain train, get on that certain train, potentially hop off at a certain station, wait there for a little bit, hop back on, go. There's so many variables to it. So I bought a ticket preemptively to. So I bought this West Ham ticket months ahead of time, planned out the day. The day comes. I bought a ticket for 7 a.m. for that train to take me to another train that would then take me to Grand Central. And then from Grand Central, I would have to, um, I would have a little bit of time to kind of hang out a little bit, get something to eat, freshen up somewhere, maybe go talk to a few people and things like that around, visit a few people down in the city, etc. But when the day came, the luxury of time was not there. So I get up that morning. I noticed that I'm not feeling so well. And a lot of people say this happens with football games and going to them, especially like away days, is that your stomachs get very much in knots. You start to it, you're visiting the bathroom a little bit, then having to clean up again because you want to be fresh, and it's going to be hot out there, and you want to make sure that you also have plenty of hydration with you, plenty of materials for your little trip. So 7 o'clock, I'm like, oh man, I start like vomiting and other fun stuff as well. I have a fever, and I try to make it down to the train. I miss the train. Um, I call up I come back. I'm like, you know what? All right. I look up online when the next one is going to be. It's not for a couple hours. I think it was like 10:51 was when it was gonna was what it was gonna do. So I was like, all right, let me go home and lay down. And for a minute, I was so feeling so down that I was like, and sick. I was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make this game anyhow. Get back home. I also have lost my wallet, and I'm looking around. I'm like, where is it? Da, 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 da. So 10:51 comes around. I'm like, I've laid down for a little bit, gotten cleaned up again on top of this because I was, just very sick at that point, and made it back down to the train station for this 10:51 departure. I have all my filming materials ready to go. I get on the train. What I didn't realize about this particular running train is that it goes from like state to state to state. So it's almost like you're boarding a land airplane. There are people who are passengers on this thing that look like they've been on it for a long time. Look like they're from like oh gosh, what was that movie about the what's it called, Metropolis or whatever, where like the airplane was like disappearing and then going like it's like a science fiction movie. I forget. Um, but it was like about these airplanes that would just go missing or whatever. But it was like I got on this um, one train and it was filled to the, you know, packed to the T with people. Some people had been on it for days. Some people had been on it for the day, making day trips maybe to like a Lake George or something like that. I didn't know. I get on it. There's a fan. I get all the way to the back cabin, finally find a seat, go to get on it, and there's a young man seated on the right side, wearing like Crocs, and his parents are in a set of seats across the way. Um, I, st- I go to start to see about making this video, and the kid like right next to me, I start to notice, he's not having the best of times. Like, he's with his parents on the train. There's it was an appropriate time to like all of a sudden be like, yeah, it's me, the IDHBNY on the away day. There's a bummed out kid next to me who's got his parents over here who seem to be annoying the eternity out of him. It just didn't seem proper. So the train gets down to the station in a place called Poughkeepsie, hometown, outside of New York City, about 45 minutes to an hour. Um, oh man, pardon me for one moment. My elbow is hurting me a little bit there. Lost my train of thought. So I get down to Poughkeepsie. Um, I realize I take a look at because you have to get on, like, also the train that I was on, it smelled like, uh, it really smelled kind of stale, almost as though there had been maybe passengers who had been on this thing for a long time and could benefit from, you know, freshening up. There were some people on it that were looked like they were sick and ill. It was a very strange, almost like futuristic caravan motif to it. I get down to the other station where I was originally from. Get out. I start to queue up all the stuff. My cords and everything are shorting because of how, like, the heat outside. That day in July, it was exceptionally hot. Um, no matter how much water you drank, you were dehydrated. No matter how much sunscreen you were putting on, you were getting burnt. There was just everything around was the heat just presented so much of an obstacle. So I hung out, visited a couple people back home, all that stuff. Then I get on the train from Metro North in Poughkeepsie at that time, which I think it was like, I want to say it was a little bit after noon. Um, I get on that and I start to queue everything up to film again for this great away day to the MetLife Arena to see West Ham versus Man United. And I get on the train, and again, it starts to fill up with people who are um, having conversations, and also the sound of the train itself is very loud too. So it presented challenges in documenting it. So I got little clips and so forth, sent it to some friends and everything like that. And they're like, wow, I've never seen, New York City like that. And that's kind of interesting, that's up. And I was like, oh, look at this here. This is this. And, and they thought that was pretty cool. And as I'm getting closer to the city, the train is filling up more and more. I start to see kits, whether they're from other countries or from Premier League teams. Start to see more footy kits. Um, because I've been thrown off time and quite a bit, I had to I I had to hang out a bit late in Poughkeepsie, and taking the train that I did, it messed with the time. But more and more passengers were getting on with varying uh, teams kits on. So I get down finally to New York City. It's mostly Man United supporters, by the way. So I get down. Um, I'm not wearing any kit at all. I get to New York City. I do have like a kit in my bag in case like I was able to get down towards pitch side and be able to nab a signature or anything like that. But nevertheless, on this train, pass through Harlem, get to get down to Grand Central Station. I get out, um, and I looked up on my phone while heading down there. I was like, all right, if I can't film at this current moment in time, let me just prepare for different areas on the route that I had planned to visit where I could stop off and maybe get footage and do a quick little prose or something like that. Um, I learned that the coach that I was planning on boarding, which was going to bring me to a hotel that was in the vicinity of East Rutherford, was not available readily, and wouldn't be able to just simply take me um, to the game and back and so forth or whatever. That I basically had missed it. So I get down there. I have to buy new tickets, new coach tickets to the game. I'm unable to refund them. Um, the ticket for the train station, the second one that I visited, I was able to get a refund and swap out. But as as for the coach one, it was I had to buy new ones, so I had to stand off to the side while people were boarding one coach that was going to the MetLife directly from the Port Authority. So I ran several blocks from Grand Central to the Port Authority. It was really fast. It was reminding me like of like being in a movie, yeah. But and I think I have a little bit of footage actually of it up on. I think I have some clips of it up on here. Um, and I get in, and I get to the Port Authority. I have to step off and use a QR code to buy tickets on the coaches. So they take me to the side. I'm that guy the whole way that's has to step off and get assistance with buying tickets, etc. So these gentlemen were nice enough to assist me on this coach in getting the ticket situation sorted for it. So like, yeah, just go back on that one right there. And I was like, all right. I was like, I'm not missing the game. They're like, no, no. So I get on it. I step on the coach, right? I kid you not. From Port Authority coach, it's a coach full of Arsenal supporters. All Arsenal kits in it. A couple of Brazils, a couple of other ones, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like it's like I'm on an Arsenal coach. So I walk back. I'm like, oh gosh, like it, my stomach starts going like you could hear it, and people are looking at me, and it's not that I'm afraid of anything bad, but it's the fact that I'm just have anxiety out the wazoo. So I'm walking through this bus. There's no seats. I go up front to the bus driver and I go, sir, I go, there's no seats. He goes, there isn't? And I go, yeah. And he goes, well, that just means you're going to have to get on the other coach. And I go, what's the other coach? He goes, it's over there. So I see this coach. Nobody's in it. I'm like, yes, I've made it to the promised land. A coach, my own personal coach. I'm thinking I'm getting on, right? I'm so oblivious to it's the little things in life that count. So I get on this coach, right? And I get to the back of it. And I'm like, yes, there's nobody coming on. I have it to myself. See a couple of dudes get on wearing, a couple mostly Man United kits. Then I see a couple with West Ham kits on. Somebody with a Noble kit. Somebody who says that they haven't watched a game, including on television or any other which way of West Ham since 2015, 2016. And I'm like, and then it starts packing up to the brim with Man United supporters stateside. One dude gets on it and he's going up to people asking him, are you a West Ham supporter or are you a Man United? Are you Man United? Are you Man United? And he gets to the one dude who has the Mark Noble kit and he goes, I'm West Ham. And he goes, good luck. And we're like, oh, I'm like, oh man, please don't let this guy come back to me. I'm like in the very last seat. Thankfully, it wasn't there wasn't any kind of interaction that was of a yeah it was it was a very anxiety ridden trip on the way in, but mostly a very mentally taxing one, and hot as well, and also somebody who's um, quite a bit, no offense to people of varying sizes of all shapes in the world, but somebody very, very much went out of their way to sit next to me that were very disproportionate to my spacing. And I was getting really cramped. Like I was like, "Ah," and they kept looking, and they spent the whole time on the on the coach staring at me, and I'm like, oh, this is great. There's no way I'm going to be able to bust out a camera and film this right now. So I get in the coach, get off the coach. I get into the parking lot. It's like a tailgating party all over the place. There's like, you know, all over. There's, like the first thing I get asked is, would you like to buy a beer? It's $5. And I'm like, no, I'm good. It's all well and good, man. And then a couple of people being like, "Oh, I've this guy's shirt, this guy's this guy's that," and it was very much. And as I approached, I started closer and closer to the MetLife. I saw kits of all kinds, and it started to kind of dawn upon me. You know, there are a lot of people, East London proper, East End proper, West Ham supporters that are concerned about the game getting watered down by American intervention, and sometimes even generationally looking through that lens, they look at a West Ham supporter from the States and they're like, why, how, how is this, it must have been green streets. um, when it comes to having seen how it, no offense to anybody who went who's a supporter of another team or whatever, enjoyed yourself for the day, everybody, different strokes for different folks. It would have never been able to fly like that over in the UK, but it was very much like a Comic Con for various enthusiasts of different teams from around the world. It showed just how, um, regionally, at least where we were, that you know how how it's an amalgamation of all different teams, instead of it being that tribal aspect coming from over in the UK of, like, it has to be segregated seating based on who you support, um, different ways of getting to games and it being certain ways. At this, it wound up to where I got into the stadium. I made it down to right before kickoff when everybody was getting announced, and I had bought my ticket seat behind Areola in the first half. That turned out to be a very anxiety-inducing thing with the amount of goals, shots that were coming in. Um, I was definitely giving it the large as far as the chance and saying things that as a football supporter you'd be calling any player to be doing, like pay attention, wake up, move, this kind of stuff, like come on this guy, come on that guy, all that stuff. And it wasn't it was all right, but it was very you can understand where there's that concern of people of like, oh, if American owners get involved or anybody of this kind of like stateside supportership, that there's a watered down, you know that it's not the way that the East End is part and parcel of the West Ham. Even though it's a similar feeling that you kind of have in your appreciation for West Ham. But yeah, you could kind of see it as a Comic Con variety of people. There were people selling kits for like other teams. Um, Again, I overheard somebody who had said they hadn't watched a West Ham game in 10 years, and this was like their first time since Payet in the states. So it was very interesting. You had a mix of different supporters. Like I get down to the seat that I'm at. I didn't know, but leading up to the game, I looked into New York Hammers where they would be seated. As it turned out, New York Hammers were didn't. If I couldn't find designated where they would be, um, and so I found out that there were a couple people around me with West Ham kits. I didn't wear any kind of kit, but I was shouting out all the chants, and I pulled out a certain shirt that I wore as a flag that certain old timers, certain people may see and may or may not. It's a show of how much you support the team. It's a shirt that I had made into like almost a flag that was facing an all Man United stateside supporter end. I didn't get too many people that had really even mentioned anything about it. They didn't recognize what it was. Then this big tall dude came down. This dude was huge. He was an older gentleman, um, or so it seemed, and he was big. And he came over to me. He had one of those. He had the Burberry cap, or no, I'm sorry, not the Burberry cap. The bucket cap. Excuse me. Just had some pizza. So he has a Burberry cap, and he comes over, and I'm thinking, oh man, I'm about to get maybe asked about this particular flag representing my supporter. Instead, he smiles at me and gives me a look of almost like a like almost like seeing an old friend that might have owed you money back in the day, but you're just happy to see them, not so much concerned about the money. This guy put his hand out, leaned down, and said, "Fair play to you, lad," in a very man Manchester style accent. Um, he said, "Fair play to you, lad," and went back up to his spot. Actually, told me a little something about having been to a couple of games. He's like, I saw a couple of games at Upton Park in such and such a time. I can't remember exactly when, but that was kind of neat. He was from the old days. Um, and then second half comes, and it was when Bowen had scored, and I got in and amongst the New York Hammers side, and because it was funny, I was chanting and standing up in the Man United supporter group, and I'm like pointing, and I over at the New York Hammers, they're like pointing back, and we're having like a call and response kind of chants going and so forth, like with the Ludo McClasco and Frank Lampard one, and I did um, the We Are West Ham's Claret and Blue Army call and response type thing. It was really neat, really cool. But that was when Paqueta came on, and supposedly livened up the youth, and a guy who was very looked very well to do on his cell phone the entire game. I do remember that about him. Every time I looked at him, he had his cell phone. Had mentioned Paquette is going to be on sale after this weekend. Just watch. He's going. He's going. He was like insistent upon it. So yeah, it brings us to now. Was he ever? But then, what had happened between then and now with the Aston Villa phone throw and Bonzo controversies and things like that, and overcoming the FA investigations, it makes you think: was the plan always going to be, in some way, shape, or form, he's going to hang in there, but he's going to pop? He's going to pop out at some point in time. He's going to leave the club at and there's some level of his presence being here that's programmatic. It seems like there was something very exhibitionistic. It seemed about how he had came with the Bonds tribute. It seemed like it was forced. Like why nobody would really do that. But then again, people were saying Nuno doesn't really know who Billy Bonds is either. I don't know. I'm not one to say, but Paco, I trust. I feel like the Paco Nuno dynamic is helpful. It's a little bit frustrating hearing certain bits and pieces of news, but thus it is what it is. Football is a game of heartbreak, and some people say there's no loyalty to it. But by the same token, you got to play for the badge. Come on, you Irons, everybody. I hope we're well. Chelsea, we have to absolutely get a sizable 3-4-1 lead. Um, and I don't know if I don't know what Traore is going to bring. I hope it is what I think it is. In that, like, Taddy Pablo, Traore, Wilson, substitute, like that. This is just going to produce momentum where at the 60-minute mark, when it becomes psychological and fatigue, we have that rejuvenation. And I think we have to make our adjustments right out the gate. Um, we need to make our adjustments right out the gate. We can't just sit and wait, because it seems like every time we're in the process of bringing in a sub, bringing off a sub, doing whatever the change is, in the second half is when we always get um, caught with our, yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. Get caught out there. Anyhow, everybody have a good week. I'm gonna go take some ibuprofen. That was my Soprano Tony Soprano Cup story. Hope all is well. Take care.